You're listening to the Connected Health Podcast, where we bring together the science of functional health, the strategy of sustainable habits, and the wisdom of your body to help you feel vibrant, strong, and empowered. I'm your host, Vanessa Cohn. I'm an integrative health practitioner, nutrition coach, and personal trainer, and the owner of the Connected Habits coaching company. And I help men and women heal from the inside out using personalized strategies rooted in hormone health, metabolism, nervous system support, and root cause healing. If you've ever felt like learning to be healthy is too much of an undertaking, this show will help you discover those healthy habits so you reconnect, rebuild, and reclaim your health. Today, we're talking about blood pressure. There's a lot of myths surrounding blood pressure, but one of the biggest myths that I want to start off with myth busting is that blood pressure has to do with your salt intake. But blood pressure is actually controlled by multiple hormones, your nervous system, your mineral levels, and it's not just how much salt that you're consuming. And the real issue isn't just high blood pressure. There are people who also struggle with low blood pressure, dizziness, fatigue. Maybe you get some head rushes when you stand up or change positions. And then some of that can translate also into POTS symptoms as well. So POTS is a condition that somewhat relates to blood pressure. It stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Big name, but all of the symptoms come together under the big umbrella of blood pressure. And we're going to talk about what blood pressure actually is, what causes both high and low blood pressure, what hormones and what minerals are involved, what testing and what ranges are important, and practical ways to help support your healthy blood pressure. Another myth that I'll bust is that once you are diagnosed with high blood pressure and it's caught early, you can actually take steps to bring it back to a normal level and you can live and stay in that range. But having it for longer term is a whole other episode. What blood pressure actually is. Blood pressure is the measure of the force of blood pushing against the walls of your arteries. Your heart is a muscle, and when your heart pumps blood, your blood is pushed through the arteries to get to the rest of the parts of your body. And the force of that blood pushing against the walls is the blood pressure itself. Blood pressure is also known as one of your vital signs. When you go to the doctor for an annual visit or any intense medical situation or regular checkup, they will check your blood pressure because it gives you that information. But that information is also important because where your blood flows, nutrients flow. And if your blood is not flowing well, nutrients may or may not be getting to the appropriate places. Now, blood overall, quality of blood, size of red blood cells, all of that is a whole other topic as well. So the purpose of this episode, we'll just talk about blood pressure. Now, the number that spits out of the machine when you get your blood pressure taken is one number over another number. The top number is called the systolic pressure. That is the measure of the heartbeats. The bottom number is the diastolic pressure, and that is the pressure when the heart relaxes. So heart beating pressure, pressure when the heart relaxes. And the standard of healthy blood pressure that most people will agree on is 120 as the systolic over 80, the diastolic. 120 over 80. Hopefully you can memorize that as like a standard. And when you take your blood pressure at home using a blood pressure cuff, that's the number that you're looking for. Blood pressure overall reflects several different systems in your body, them being your cardiovascular health, your vascular tone, the fluid balance and the mineral balance of your body, your stress levels. All of these factors play a role in what your blood pressure is. Currently, normal is 120 over 80 or a little less. And what would be considered elevated blood pressure is 120 to 129 over 80. Stage 1 hypertension. Hypertension is the technical term for high blood pressure, is 130 to 139 over 80 to 89. Stage 2 hypertension is 140 plus over 90 plus. And then low blood pressure generally is less than 90 as your systolic number, and then about 60 as your diastolic number. So let's talk about symptoms of low blood pressure first. That's going to look like dizziness, fainting, fatigue, weakness, brain fog, cold hands and feet. People with lower blood pressure tend to get labeled as anxious or tired when it might be electrolyte or adrenal related. Just to give a personal anecdote, when I had my health crisis a couple of years ago, I would chronically have lower blood pressure, and come to find out after the fact when I did all this testing that I was severely depleted and my minerals and my adrenals were tanked. So that makes sense with that knowledge, but I would never have come to that knowledge had it not been for functional medicine. And symptoms of high blood pressure are things that you don't really notice. If you have high blood pressure, You might not particularly have any manifesting symptoms, but when it becomes so high that it's what's called a hypertensive crisis, your blood pressure is going to be well over 180, over 120. That's when you have to seek medical attention. That sort of condition looks like severe headache, severe anxiety or confusion, chest pain, blurred vision, shortness of breath, nosebleeds, and then dizziness as well. Now, when your blood pressure is starting to creep up, that means you also might not experience a change in symptoms very much either. So it is important to get this tested regularly. Your PCP at your annual visit will technically do it for you, but you're also welcome to get a machine and do it at home or go to your local drugstore. Most of them will have a blood pressure cuff and you can check that at any time. I want to give you the holistic and functional medicine perspective of blood pressure. And in that case, it's not just about the heart, but it looks at the whole body and how the whole body is experiencing life and maybe even symptoms that will act as puzzle pieces to what is going on from a big picture perspective. When it comes to blood pressure, it's not just the heart pumping that's involved within that number. It involves your kidneys, it involves your adrenal glands, it involves your whole nervous system. It involves the minerals in your body, how much inflammation there is, how hydrated you are, and so much more. The system that governs your blood pressure is called the RAAS system, and it stands for renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. Now, this is the system in your body that controls your blood vessel constriction, so how tight your blood vessels are getting, the balance of fluid, the balance of sodium included, how much sodium is retained, and your blood pressure overall. So this is the big system over what controls blood pressure. When your blood pressure drops, your kidneys release renin, and that is an enzyme that triggers a cascade of responses in an attempt to raise your blood pressure. One of those responses is angiotensin. Angiotensin 2 specifically. So renin is released by the kidneys, which signals angiotensin 2, and angiotensin wants to shrink your blood vessels so that your body experiences higher blood pressure in those more constricted blood vessels. It tightens them, okay? So overall, when your blood pressure is low, your body signals to raise it up through renin and angiotensin 2. Then the adrenal glands that sit right on top of the kidney release a hormone called aldosterone, and aldosterone is in charge of fluid retention in the body. That can be sodium, that can be water, and all of that also helps to increase the volume of your blood. Overall, all of these signals will raise your blood pressure. The problem is when your system is overactive or underactive, whenever your blood pressure is chronically too low or too high. The system itself doing that is an amazing way to keep your body in homeostasis. However, when it has to do that all the time, or it doesn't do it at all, or is not functioning well, we have a problem. I would say the main hormone related to high blood pressure is aldosterone because that controls that fluid balance. High aldosterone also indicates high blood pressure. When your aldosterone is too high, your body is chronically retaining water, retaining sodium, losing potassium. Now, sodium and potassium are two minerals that really help the body stay in a good fluid balance, and one is too high, and when one is too low, we've got some issues. The body will retain water, it'll constrict your blood vessels chronically and make your blood pressure too high. In addition to the high blood pressure, your body is going to experience high inflammation whenever aldosterone is high. You're going to have cardiovascular strain when aldosterone is high. I want to drive to the topic of root causes of why aldosterone is high in the first place. Chronic stress is the biggest one. Most of us who listen to this podcast are in the United States. We live a high stress, high pressure lifestyle, and chronic stress does so many things detrimental to our body. Overall, it just ages us and breaks us down faster. But chronic stress is one of the root cause stresses of high blood pressure in the first place. Another one is dehydration. If you're not drinking enough fluids, your cells will not be hydrated enough to create a good fluid balance within them. Low magnesium is another root cause of high blood pressure. Now, magnesium is such an important mineral for many enzymatic reactions in the body. And guess what? If you're high stress, you burn through magnesium faster. And at the rate that we're going, unless you're supplementing, you're not really replenishing or giving your body enough magnesium to do its job. So if it's likely that you're chronically stressed, It's also likely that you're low in magnesium, and it would be a really good idea to think about asking your health practitioner about supplementing that. Another root cause of high blood pressure is low potassium intake. With our modern diets, it's very easy to get enough sodium. There's a lot of sodium in many things, processed foods and even non-processed foods, but we definitely don't get enough potassium. I'm going to give you some higher potassium foods that you can incorporate later on in this episode, so please stay tuned. But having a good balance between sodium and potassium can help keep that fluid balance in a more neutral place. Another root cause is chronic inflammation. This can come from injuries, it can come from our diet, it can come from stress as well, it can come from gut problems, autoimmune issues, and so much more. Another cause of blood pressure is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is an issue when your body is taking in food and the release of insulin is not happening when it should and in the amounts that it should. On the other end, when we have low aldosterone, that's related to lower blood pressure. Now, just to refresh, aldosterone is the hormone that's in charge of the fluid balance of the blood pressure walls and the cell walls. So low aldosterone correlated to low blood pressure is the complete opposite pattern as the high. So when aldosterone is low, your body can't retain sodium. And sodium isn't just salt. Sodium is one of our minerals involved in how our body stays hydrated. So when you're not staying hydrated, you're going to experience dizziness. You're going to experience fatigue, brain fog, weakness. You might even faint. You might have POTS-like symptoms as well. And on this end of the spectrum, the root causes of low blood pressure, guess what? Also chronic stress. This is the one that I experienced in my health crisis, chronic stress. The other root cause is adrenal dysfunction. I also had that too. Let's talk about the kidneys and the adrenals as a side note. Your kidneys are important in filtering your blood. Your adrenal glands sit right on top of your kidneys. They're really small. They're about the size of a quarter, and they sit on top of that. And your kidneys and your adrenals work together. If your body is chronically stressed and sending out those stress hormones from the adrenal glands too much, that's going to affect the adrenal gland function. It's going to affect hormone function. It's going to affect blood pressure. It's going to affect so many things. Other root causes include low sodium intake, mold exposure, viral illness, and other types of toxin exposures. So let me give you another side note on that. The mold, the viral illness, the toxin exposure, all of that can also feed into the chronic stress loop where it's taking a physical chronic toll on your body. There is an increase in inflammation. Your body is depleted of resources and minerals, just trying to manage the growing toxins within your body and so much more. Now I want to take another slight detour to POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. POTS is a disorder of your autonomic nervous system. So the nervous system that's in charge of managing your blood pressure, your heart rate, your systems of fight or flight. And essentially, it's when your heart rate goes up a significant amount whenever you go from sitting to standing. And then that number jumps up so high because there is a low blood volume and you likely have an electrolyte imbalance. And we're going to talk about your electrolytes or your minerals next. Let's talk about minerals in the role of blood pressure. Minerals are what regulate your blood pressure. When your minerals are off, your blood pressure is off. Potassium is one of the main minerals that is involved. More potassium helps to reduce inflammation. It helps to balance sodium, its antagonist, and it helps to relax blood vessels. Low potassium intake is very common, and this is where I wanted to give you some options of whole foods to help increase your potassium intake. And yes, if you live in the United States and processed foods are part of your diet, I would be intentional with your potassium intake because that's only going to make things better for you. Russet white potatoes is going to have a good amount of potassium. Avocados, leafy greens, any and all of them, squash, beans, and something that I tell my clients to consume regularly, especially if they're stressed, is coconut water. Coconut water not only tastes good, but it has a good amount of potassium and it's very hydrating. Rarely do we recommend potassium supplements on their own. We highly recommend getting them through whole foods. Things like the ones that I listed previously. A lot of people know bananas to be high in potassium, but there are those other foods that I mentioned as well, and coconut water. Another mineral very important is sodium. Now remember, sodium is not just salt. It's a very misunderstood mineral, but it's really important for balancing fluid, for your nerves to signal well between each other and for your blood pressure to be stable. We don't want too much, but we also don't want too little. And usually when people are diagnosed with blood pressure problems or they're told to watch their blood pressure, they immediately are told, oh, I have to stop eating salt. And it's not necessarily that you're eating too much salt. You might not be. You actually might not be getting enough potassium. So please increase those potassium foods that I mentioned just a little bit ago. Every single day, eat more potassium. And when you do consume sodium, make sure your sodium is coming from a good balance of whole foods and not from a large amount of processed foods. People with low blood pressure might actually need more sodium. Another one of those minerals is magnesium. Magnesium is one of the most important minerals. It helps to relax your blood vessels, relax your body in general, lower your inflammation, and to reduce excess aldosterone. So aldosterone, remember, is that hormone that when there is more of, there is a higher blood pressure. When there is less of, there is low blood pressure. So intaking more magnesium, which most Americans are deficient in, can help reduce the excess aldosterone. It's a very common deficiency to have, and you might experience anxiety, poor sleep, muscle tension, maybe some headaches, and of course, high blood pressure. Typically, people will supplement with magnesium. There are many different kinds, but find a good magnesium blend with citrate, malate, glycinate, and even threonate. Magnesium-rich foods that you can start including in your diet are nuts like pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, almonds, cashews, leafy greens like spinach, black beans, dark chocolate, avocados, salmon, yogurt. Bananas will also have magnesium as well as potassium. Those are all things that you can start to incorporate in your diet every single day to get more magnesium. Other factors that will affect your blood pressure that might be hidden is what the nervous system is doing. So the nervous system is made up of two parts. There's the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. Blood pressure impacts the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is in control of your blood pressure, your heart rate. It's in charge of your fight or flight systems that will activate you to get ready to run from a threat or to fight a threat. But when you're stressed all the time and your sympathetic nervous system is activated all the time, it can cause a cascade of issues in your body, not just related to blood pressure. The other one that we don't ever think about is your oral microbiome. This can affect your blood pressure, and there are certain bacteria in your mouth that can help convert what are called dietary nitrates into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide relaxes your blood vessels and helps to improve circulation. And when you take standard antiseptic mouthwash is great for killing bad bacteria, but it also kills the good. It kills everything and wipes it all out. And when you don't have the healthy bacteria in your mouth that helps convert the nitrates into nitric oxide, you're going to have that in lower amounts of your body and your blood pressure can raise. So when you're considering using a mouthwash, maybe you don't want to do an entirely antiseptic one, but you might want to do something like oil pulling. You can also do some xylitol mouthwash. You can just maintain good oral hygiene with brushing and flossing and tongue scraping and be okay without using mouthwash. And you can increase your nitric oxide food intake. Nitric oxide can be found in foods like beets, arugula, spinach, citrus, pomegranate, dark chocolate. You might as well make yourself a nice, big, healthy salad with all of those things that sound really good together. Garlic is also another one. And if you are in the fitness or supplement world, you might be familiar with nitric oxide as a component of certain pre-workouts. I do not recommend that people take pre-workouts, but nitric oxide can be taken as a supplement on its own. And I prefer people to get it through food sources first. Now for the important part, I want to give you guys practical steps to keep a healthy blood pressure. Number one, focus on mineral balance. Now, one of the tests that I run as an integrative health practitioner is the hair tissue mineral analysis. And what it does is it takes the top inch of your hair coming out of your scalp, very, very tiny pieces. It's not like when you do the test, you're going to be missing an entire chunk of your hair. That's not how it works. You just take a tiny cluster of hairs from different parts of your scalp, send that into the lab, and it's going to give you some information on your mineral balance. It does give information on sodium, potassium, how they're relating and reacting to one another, magnesium that we also talked about today, calcium, and a dozen or so other minerals that are very important in giving information on what's going on in different systems in your body. It is the very first functional medicine lab that I ever ran that gave me so much information. And it's very accessible, non-invasive, and very inexpensive. So I recommend that you talk to your local practitioner about getting a hair tissue mineral analysis done. I can also run them for you as well, but that's going to give you a picture of your mineral balance. So when you're focusing on that, take the food lists that I listed earlier, foods that are high in potassium, magnesium, nitric oxide, or even just Google foods that are rich in these categories and start to incorporate them into meals every single day. And that's going to be where you're getting your whole food sources of those high mineral foods. Definitely focus on potassium because generally we get enough sodium as Americans. Unless you have low blood pressure, then you can be a little bit heavier on your salt pour when you're creating your dishes. And I had to do that. When I was sick, I had to load on the salt, and it definitely helped. If you have low blood pressure, maybe some POTS symptoms, and you find yourself craving salt, the craving of salt might mean that you are salt deficient, that you might need more salt. So when you're using salt, get a good quality Himalayan pink salt or Celtic sea salt. Good quality salt with more nutrients and minerals in there. The second recommendation that I'll make is to stay hydrated, especially if you experience dizziness. I like to joke around and say that I carry my emotional support water bottle with me everywhere I go. Because you never know when you want to take a sip of water, you need to stay hydrated. I'll recommend to some people, if you want some natural electrolytes, you can do a squeeze of lemon and lime and a pinch or two of salt, which gives your water a little bit of flavor, and it also gives you some minerals within that as well. Number 3, manage your stress. Balancing the stress in your body, regulating your nervous system is essential. We are not created to live in high stress environments all the time. And sometimes we create more stress than we actually need to be under with extra worries and stressing about things that are out of our control. I give recommendations quite often here on my podcast to manage stress, but I'm going to give you one right here. And that is just to breathe. Just exhale, relax your shoulders, breathe deeply. And it's really important to ground yourself. Maybe you need a reminder that you are safe. There is not a bear or a tiger or a lion out to get you. You're completely fine. And you might have to do that grounding practice several times a day. I know that if you live in a high stress environment and you might have a stressful job that everything seems urgent, it's not. Most of us do not have jobs where lives are at stake. And if you do, definitely take the time to ground. But everybody else, maybe you work in an office, maybe you work from home, maybe you're tired, but you're still stressed out. Take some time, multiple times a day, almost like giving yourself a timeout just to breathe and focus and ground yourself. The other recommendations that I'll give you is to address root causes, other root causes of why your blood pressure might be spiking in the first place. Stress is a big one. But we also have chronic inflammation. If you are someone with insulin resistance, you want to address that first. Insulin resistance and blood sugar can also be tied in with blood pressure. So manage that, change your nutrition, work with a nutritionist, reduce your toxin exposure, change out your personal care products to be less full of chemicals, less full of fragrances. Start using glassware instead of plasticware to eat and reheat your food. Drink filtered water. Use a filtered shower head in your shower. Change the air filters in your home or get a new one. These are all tips that I hope can help you out. And I hope you remember one key takeaway, and that blood pressure isn't just about salt. It is a conglomeration of how hormones work together, minerals, stress, and how all of those things regulates the fluids and the blood flow within your body. Medications out there can help to manage things while you figure out the root cause. But if it's caught early, there's a chance that you can bring your blood pressure back to a normal, healthy range to keep it there. Check out what those root causes could potentially be. Leave no stone unturned. There's usually a root cause or a set of root causes that can be at the bottom of why your blood pressure is going high or low in the first place. And it's really important to support your other body systems as well. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Connected Health Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, it would mean the world to me if you would follow, rate, and review the show and share it with someone who needs this message. You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram, Connected Habits Coaching. I have a free Facebook community called Connected Habits, a community for holistic and sustainable health, where I will host trainings, Q&As, and support for women on a healing journey. I want you to remember that your body isn't broken. It's just asking to be seen and heard. I'll see you next time.